Year 12, so we are on the final video, probably until we are all back together, which is exciting. So to end off section 2, here we are looking at the influence of Greek and Egyptian culture, particularly on art and architecture. Okay. Silver stop point. Our main idea, basically, it was quite, there was definitely a fascination with Greek and Egyptian culture in Pompeii and Herculaneum. It's often even quite a bit fashionable at some points to have that, that Greek art and architecture and Egyptian art and architecture as well. We've obviously already looked at the idea of religion and some other forms of like sport culture and stuff like that to transfer over from Greece as well. Okay, so look, I don't want to read these in full, but we have kind of looked at the idea of we've got early links with the Greeks in terms of the size and scope of the Greek Empire of sorts, and the amount of how do you say? I guess the popularity of the style of art and architecture. So there is a close link between the Greeks and the Romans, and you only have to look at the religion as well, even borrowing and converting Greek gods into Roman forms and stuff like that. Okay. Egypt, obviously, we spoke about it as a trade crossover as well, and also Rome's conquest of Egypt. And immigration from Egypt to Italy also saw kind of an incorporation of Egyptian art and architecture as well. Okay, guys, look, today's video is not going to be overly long. I'm only going to be just kind of showing you some examples because the information should be there for you anyway. Okay. In terms of the Greek influences, it's not dependent on Greek origins, but it does kind of incorporate this kind of Greek influence into the art. Okay, we've got frescoes on walls and public buildings and stuff like that. That they are Italian, but you do see elements of Greek, influence as well. So as you can see here, we've got elements of columns, painted columns in our frescoes here. Okay. And obviously you've got, frescoes of Hercules and stuff like that as well, or the Greek name Heracles, but, Hercules, Herculaneum is that Roman kind of version of the name. Okay, here's another fresco. Okay, it's a frieze, It's a frieze also showing Greek culture. It's a representation of religious practice. We looked at this being, for the cult of Bacchus or Dionysus. Okay, which is, I think I may have stuffed up my little thing there, caption there. Yeah, I have. This caption should be here. Okay, so apologies for that. So that's Venus coming out of the shell, Venus being Aphrodite, or Aphrodite is the Greek version, renamed to Venus. Okay. Here's another statue of Greek deities as well. So, guys, prior to Augustus, you would have seen a lot more Greek statues or Greek-styled statues. After Augustus, and we start seeing the rise of the creation and rise of the imperial cult and things like the Augustales and stuff, you would have seen a lot of these Greek statues being replaced with the imperial cult over time, up until the time of the eruption. Okay. So we've got some frescoes and mosaics here. Guys, we spoke about theatre, and theatre was very much an entertainment form borrowed or loved from the Greek culture, okay? So the Greek drama and stuff like that is very much absorbed into Roman culture. So we can see the theatre masks here. We can see some actors preparing for a performance here and stuff like that. These are definitely borrowed from Greek culture, okay? This is a very famous mosaic in the House of the Fawn. It's a defeat of the Persians by Alexander the Great. There is a link here about that kind of goes into this in a little bit more depth. So I encourage you to, have a look at that. Okay. But again, this is a Greek victory. So why would a Greek victory be on a wall in Pompeii? It's definitely demonstrative of that interest, that fascination with Greek culture. I should have left this to go on to the next page, so apologies for that as well. So we've got some ones of Egyptian in nature now. So we've got a Nilotic mosaic here, which is Nilotic being, related to the Nile. We've got some animals and plant life that would have been around the Nile. You've also got some frescoes of the rites of Isis in the Temple of Isis. And you've also got some frescoes and stuff in houses related to the cult of Isis as well. And we looked at this. It really is a shame that the name Isis has been twisted and perverted now to not, because I actually find it quite a pretty name, and it's just such a shame that it's now associated with an awful group. Okay, in terms of the architecture, guys, now you should already have noticed now that Pompeii and Herculaneum love their columns, okay? Very much Greek in nature. And they've talked about different columns, and you may have been thinking, what the hell are, these different types of columns? Well, here's some explanation here. Our Doric, our Ionic, and our Corinthian. And generally, it's not this bit you're looking at, it's this bit you're looking at, okay? So very, very prevalent, these columns, which are very Greek in nature. And we see them on public buildings and temples, around the forums, and even private buildings as well, and around the peristylium of houses. Okay, so they're very, very distinctively Greek influenced in nature. Oh, excuse me. Where was I up to? Okay, so here's some more photos of columns. Okay, remember this is the quad porticus. This was where people would go in the between shows, between the large theatre and the small theatre. It ended up becoming the gladiator training grounds, but you've got this kind of quadrangle here to people to walk around, buy food and drinks that are surrounded by columns here. It looks really, really nice. And even things like the palestra and stuff like that and your bathhouses, not uncommon to have those columns in and around that place as well, okay? Now over here, our columns look a little bit different. Okay, they look definitely less ornate and more solid. So these are from buildings that kind of shows us how the town Romanized over time. It kind of drew away from that Greek architectural influence as well, okay? Romanized peristyle, the palestra, the urban baths, and Herculaneum. So as we can see here, I move away from that Greek architectural style. We don't have more left, so bear with me here, guys. Remember the theatres themselves, okay? The very design of the theatres are very much Greek in nature. They're built into the hillside, okay? That semicircular kind of design built into the hill. That's very much off a Greek design. And hopefully you haven't forgotten, but that's why it's interesting. The Herculaneum Theatre is so interesting because it's a freestanding theatre. It is not built into the hillside. So it's quite interesting. So make sure you don't forget that and you don't confuse our theatres at Pompeii and Herculaneum, because Herculaneum is unique in its theatre design. Okay, I'm not reading through all of that. That's for you to have a look at. Just kind of some of the stuff we've gone over as well already in terms of the influence of Greek and Egyptian cultures. We've got a relief here showing kind of depicting one of the mythological stories of Achilles. from one of the stories there, which I'm not going to read out to you, but it's depicting Achilles here putting some of the rust from his spear into the wound of Telephus in order to heal it. And that's supposed to be a Delphic oracle here. Now these here, oh my goodness, how interesting would it be to kind of look at what's in here? They're papyrus, so Egyptian paper or Egyptian scrolls, and written in a Greek language. Okay, but we can't pick them up because they're so fragile. If you picked them up, they would very likely just disintegrate in your hand, which would obviously be an incredible shame. So what they're trying to do is develop technology to try and read in or uncover the layers underneath in order to read what's actually on those. So these are found in the house of papyri. Okay. So extremely, extremely fragile. And we do see more evidence of the Greek language being used around. There is some evidence in both towns of graffiti written in Greek. Okay, so we do see some examples of the Greek language being used in both towns. Okay, as I said, the conquest of Egypt led to an influx of Egyptian craftsmen and fashionable copying of Egyptian motifs and styles. Okay, we've got some symbols of Isis and the Nile. Okay, we've got a bronze statue with the Sphinx down here. Okay. So it's highly evident that Greek and Egyptian culture influenced both towns in a wide variety of ways. Okay. The religion, the art they produce, and the literature that they read and wrote. It's not a bad little kind of conclusive point to pop away for another time. All right, guys, that is it. Hopefully this all helps you. I'd be interested to know if these videos, even when we return to classroom, if these videos were there for you, ideally to watch before you walk into the classroom, whether you would actually watch them or not. But obviously that's a discussion we can have over email or in class. Take care, guys. I shall see you soon.